Hey there, dear travelers. Before this week's episode, I wanted to take a moment to actually give a warning for this episode. Normally, we just give our standard warnings at the beginning of each episode and tell you guys to go ahead and check out the show notes for a more detailed explanation on what the episode may entail. For this one, though, I felt it was necessary to give a stronger warning this time. Now, we have a lot of do's and don'ts when we accept submissions. However, we felt this story was really a good one that did push the boundaries on those limits. This episode contains heavy depictions of murder involving children and animals, as well as depictions of deceased children and animals. And while horror can certainly be bloody and gory, sometimes horror can also be about the grief you carry when surviving a traumatic event. Now, we know that's not for everyone, and while that's not the overall theme and goal of the story, I did still want to give you a slight warning. Now, you can go ahead and do what my grandpa says and take the chicken exit out and join us next week for an all-new episode. But if my description piqued your interest and you're just a horror-loving fanatic, then stay tuned for this week's episode, dear travelers. Like I said, it is a good one. This podcast contains adult content and themes. For a full list of our content warnings, please see our show notes. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome, my dear travelers, to the Morbid Forest. Ah, there you are, traveler. I've been looking everywhere for you. Seems you got a bit turned around. Not to worry, I'll have you sorted and on the right path in no time. Now, if you'll follow me... Well, you can't really follow me properly with that blocking your view. Come on now. It's time to remove your red mask.
Billy didn't know where he was. This happened sometimes when he got nervous. For several excruciating ticks of the clock, he could not recall what he was doing or how he had come to be in this room. An old painting had been propped against the wall near his feet. He breathed deep, smelling flowers and formaldehyde. He remembered now. He was in Zollner Funeral Homes. He had removed the painting to look through the peephole. He blew at the powdery white dust that rimmed the hole and pressed his face close to the wall. The hole was small, no bigger than the head of a box nail, but it provided a perfect view of the two men in the next room, dressed in shiny suits and silk ties.
Dressed even nicer than usual. It must have been a fancy funeral.
Dusk was fading into night outside the window, and lamplight washed over the room, dim and yellow. Both men remained standing, ignoring the leather loveseat and plush suede-lined chairs. Their voices were muffled by the wall, but it was clear they were mid-argument.
"We can't keep him,"
Mr. Zollner said. He walked over to his brother, who was also named Mr. Zollner, and leaned in closer.
"I caught him hugging the corpses. Do you hear me? Clutching them and crying as if they were his own dearly departed loved ones. It's unhinged."
He wasn't hurting anyone, though, was he?
His brother replied.
The dead don't know the difference.
It confused Billy, having two bosses. both brothers and both named Mr. Zollner. So, he thought of them as Boss 1 and Boss 2. Sometimes, Billy mixed up their faces and couldn't figure out who was who, but then he would remember. Boss 2 had spiky hair, like dead grass, and made Billy feel small. Boss 1 had hair like hot caramel, and his soft eyes put Billy at ease. Boss 2 pinched the bridge of his nose, as if to stave off an impending migraine.
I knew you would do this. I knew you would defend him. Let's get rid of him and hire someone else, please. Someone who can do the job without supervision. Someone who doesn't require room and board.
Boss 1 sighed and looked away.
It's not that easy.
But it is that easy,
said Boss 2. He turned to pace the floor, the lamplight casting shadows across his eyes. Billy shivered. He could feel the man's hatred for him. That's how he told the brothers apart when their faces blurred together in his mind. The brain damage hadn't stolen Billy's intuition. He pulled away from the wall and rubbed his eye. Something scraped against the underside of his eyelid. Drywall dust. He glanced at the mirror across from the room and considered taking a closer look, but decided against it. He didn't like his reflection anymore, one side of his unshaven face hanging slack. He blinked the itch away and returned his attention to the argument in the next room. Boss 2 spun on his heels, pacing.
Look, I'm not bitter that you own most of Dad's business. I get it. I don't expect to waltz back in and take control after moving away for so long. But, little brother, you got to listen to me. Get rid of that guy, he's a creep.
Boss 1 shook his head, his light brown hair swaying with the rapid motion.
I knew Billy. The real Billy before that bullet changed him. Before he lost his whole family.
He fixed his brother with a challenging stare.
He was a good boy. And still is a good boy. He's been through hell.
Boss 2's lips pressed together, one eyebrow cocked.
No, this isn't acceptable. Deceased or not, those were someone else's children he was holding. Hugging their cold, naked bodies to his chest.
He took a long pause and added,
I mean, what would Dad say?
Boss 1 frowned and gazed at the floor.
Dad made it look effortless, didn't he? He running this business, doing it with no complaints, like the stress never cost him a wink of sleep. Well, I'm not Dad.
Boss 2 studied his brother in silence. Something like compassion crossed his features.
I thought, you were sleeping better now. Didn't the doctor give you something?
Yes, it works. I'm out by 11 o'clock every night. I just wish I didn't need the pills. I wish I could handle the stress on my own.
Sounds like you need to cut some stress from your life.
Boss 1 shook his head.
No.
He turned away from his brother and ran a hand through his hair so roughly it looked like he was yanking it out.
He's got nowhere else to go. No income, no home.
No sanity, no morality. I mean, fondling dead kids.
Shame burned in Billy's cheeks.
It's not like that.
He thought. He picked at the wall, nervously carving a notch with his fingernail.
It's innocent,
said Boss 1, straightening his tie. Boss 2 widened his eyes.
Innocent? Are you serious?
He blames himself for everything that happened. And those two, they're young like his niece and nephew were. The sight of them probably just triggered something. He's not right in the head, but not in the way you're implying.
Billy's heart thudded in his chest.
It's happening again.
He thought as deja vu washed over his mind, accompanied by a wave of nausea and light-headed dizziness. He clutched at a nearby chair for support and tried to brace himself, but found only air. He was falling, losing consciousness again. His cheek skidded the carpet as he landed. Blackness filled his vision. Billy heard his sister screaming. He opened his eyes, and he was standing in the living room of his old house, with its paneled walls and dark blue carpet. A figure in a ski mask stood, silent, holding the corpse of a dog. Billy's dog. Blood matted the fur, leaking from a gruesome head wound, staining the carpet at the killer's feet. Billy had felt as shattered as his dog's skull.
God, no. Not Winnie. I'm so sorry, girl.
His sister's screams grew more frantic by the second, but instead of alarming him, they only seemed to enunciate his sorrow as he gawked at Winnie's limp body dangling from the murderer's fist. The killer dropped the dog and turned to Dee, cowering defenseless in a corner. His dark eyes glistened inside of the red ski mask. Billy snapped out of it.
Move your ass!
He thought.
Save your sister!
Billy sprinted for Dee, who nearly lost hold of the phone she was dialing with trembling fingers as Billy scooped her into his arms. Dee wouldn't make it out on her own, Billy knew. She'd been hit by a reckless driver at age 4 and could barely move her right leg.
Hey!
She yelled. She beat her knuckles into his back and screamed.
Go back! Get the children, not me! Put me down! Get the children!
Struggling to reach the front door under the weight of Dee's writhing body, Billy checked to see if the intruder was coming after them. He wasn't. He just stood there, facing the direction of the long hallway that led to the bedrooms, both of his fists clenched at his side, soaked with blood.
Cindy and Jonathan,
Billy thought, and his stomach flipped at the thought of his niece and nephew all alone in their bedroom.
But I'm so close to getting Dee out of here. I can't stop now. I'll get her out and come back for the children. It'll only take a few extra seconds.
He turned the doorknob as Dee sobbed and begged him to put her down. They crossed the threshold, and she yelled for her children.
Cindy! Johnny! Hide, babies! Hide!
He cleared the porch steps, set her down in the grass, and dashed through the front door in time to see Red Mask disappear down the hall.
Billy?
Another voice called, much deeper than Dee's.
Billy, wake up!
When Billy came to, he was on the floor, a pillow stuffed under his head. Boss One stared down at him, wrinkles at the corner of his eyes.
You okay?
He asked. Billy couldn't find the words, so he nodded.
We were in the next room, and I heard a thump against the wall. I found you on the floor.
What were you doing in here anyway?
Boss 2 asked.
Oh, damn it, Ken, not right now,
said Boss 1. Boss 2 narrowed his eyes and made an indignant noise.
If he's so innocent, what's he doing lurking around Dad's old office, peeking through holes in the wall?
Billy's heart sank as Boss 1 looked up and saw the hole in the wall. Boss 1's blonde-haired brother encircled the peephole with his finger, sneering down at Billy.
Looks intentional to me. Leave it to this pervert.
Billy sat up, too quickly. His vision checkered, and he felt sick.
Oh, easy,
said Boss 1, sliding a warm hand behind Billy's neck to keep him from flopping over.
You don't have to explain right now.
Blood rushed to Billy's cheeks. He couldn't bring himself to connect eyes with either of them.
I thought I might get fired. So
His skin felt hot.
I was listening, and I must have had another seizure.
This is too much.
Boss 2 shook a finger at his brother.
You dated his mother 15 years ago? He's not even family.
He is.
It's him or me, Richie. You don't want to run everything on your own again. Remember all the stress? Choose wisely.
With that, Boss 2 turned around and stormed out of the room, leaving them in a stunned silence. Billy sat with the edges of a shoebox gripped in his fingers, waiting for the tears to subside. He didn't like the idea of moisture splashing the box's precious contents. When he was able to draw a breath without his bottom lip quivering, he removed the lid and set it beside him on the bed. He poked his fingers at the assortment of old newspaper clippings. He pulled a small article from the pile. 2 children smiled up at him from a grainy black and white photo. He read the headline for the millionth time. Red Mask Killer claims 2 lives and leaves 1 in critical condition. Billy clenched his jaw, frowning. He remembered the fear he'd experienced during his 4 days on life support. He'd been trapped in those panic-stricken minutes before Cindy and Johnny had died, reliving the nightmare on loop. Now, it's been 17 months since the coma, and Billy still played those final moments over and over every day. He didn't know why his own mind worked against him, conjuring the scene with little to no prompt. But it happened. All the time. One moment he'd be fine, and then... Billy reached the bottom step of the porch. He bent over and let Dee tumble to the ground.
Billy! Get the kids! Get the kids!
He turned around, wiped the sweat from his eyes, and cleared the stairs in 2 bounds. Billy ran through the front door, nearly tripping over Winnie, but the sight of Red Mask heading down the hall spurned him forward with a steady momentum.
Cindy, Johnny, I can't let them down.
The carpet made a wet slurping noise and splashed over the tops of his bare feet as he ran through the gore pooled around his dead dog. He rounded the corner and saw Red Mask approaching the door at the end of the hall.
No!
He thought,
Fuck! No! Please!
Jonathan screamed, and Cindy cried as the intruder burst into their room. Red Mask's bulky frame blocked Billy's view of them, but he heard the children whimper and scramble away. Red Mask pulled something from his waistband, raised it. Billy ran at him, screaming.
No, don't!
There were 2 quick blasts. Bam, bam. The sound forever implanted into Billy's mind, even deeper than the bullet that entered it a moment later. He raked a hand through his unkempt hair and rubbed the hard lump of scar tissue at the side of his head. He hated the memory of how it had felt, the shot like fireworks exploding into his skull. Worse than that was the permanent damage it had done to his brain, changing Billy from a hopeful college candidate into a basket case Boss One employed out of pity. From the blurry newsprint photo, the eyes of his niece and nephew stared up at him. "You should have saved us," those eyes said. "We were helpless, innocent, but you saved Mommy and left us to die." He choked back tears. Their tender faces, 4 and 6 years old, seemed to question him behind false smiles. "Uncle Billy, why did you let that man kill us?" His throat tightened, and he forced himself to swallow. At the core of his sadness was a seething anger, like a bear trap ready to snap. Red Mask had taken 8 more lives since killing Johnny and Cindy, and still the killer roamed free. He had no methods, no patterns, no time frame. He left no clues behind. When Red Mask decided to kill, he killed whatever and whomever he pleased. Billy let the clippings go and fluttered back into the box. He put the lid on it so he didn't have to worry about his tears hitting the paper, and he cried. He had cried every day for months now. Some days, it felt like he might never stop. Billy couldn't sleep. It was true that he had sometimes gotten nervous for no reason, a side effect of the brain damage. But this was different. No amount of tossing or turning would quell the voice inside his head that whispered.
Something is wrong.
He sat up and looked out his window for the 10th time. His bedroom, built hastily into the business side of Zollner Funeral Home when Boss One had decided to take him in, had a window that looked straight across the garden with a clear view of Boss One's room. The blinds were always drawn, and Billy wouldn't spy into another man's bedroom anyhow, but all the same, He found it comforting when Boss One's light turned out each night. Billy had been the last one to go to bed every evening when he had lived with Dee, Cindy, and Johnny. First, hugging the children goodnight, then watching Dee's bedroom light blink out. Perhaps Billy needed that comfort, some small semblance of his old life. After he had first moved into Zollner Funeral Home, it had troubled Billy that Boss One had been plagued with insomnia. Seeing the man's light flicker on and off throughout the night made Billy nervous. He couldn't relax until all was calm. But then, Boss One had gone to a doctor, and for the past few months, the soft yellow light floating across the pebble-lined garden had blinked out by 11 and stayed off. It helped Billy sleep because he needed to know everyone was comfortable and safe. And tonight, he was bothered, deeply bothered, to see Boss One's light still shining. It had stayed on all night, now getting past 1 a.m.
If he can't sleep, it's because he hasn't even tried. Why won't he try? This isn't like him.
Billy groaned into his pillow.
I won't be able to sleep if I don't go check on him.
He stumbled over to his light switch, flipped it on, and slowly opened his bedroom door. The hallway was pure gloom, but soft light from Billy's bedroom sliced the darkness down the middle, causing a dull glow in both directions. To his right was the door to the embalming room, where they store the bodies of the deceased until their memorial services. His eyes were drawn to this door every time. Sometimes he thought he heard them calling, Jonathan and Cindy. He knew his niece and nephew were 6 feet under the dirt, but knowing they had been in that very room, that their funeral had been held at Zollner while he was trapped in a coma, sometimes he felt like they weren't really gone, like they were only sleeping at the end of the hall, just like old times. He took a deep breath and turned in the other direction, his spine rigid. He passed a small office converted into a storage room. It rarely got used, and that's how Billy got the idea to use it for eavesdropping. He frowned, wishing he hadn't done that. The door was closed, lights off, and Billy crept onward. Moonlight from the beveled glass of the front door illuminated the end of the hall, sending strange patterns across the floor. He inched towards it, passing the main office, the inky blackness of its spacious interior like a dark chasm. The French doorway of the viewing room was a yawning mouth of shadows. He moved through the foyer into the hall, perspiration oozing from his pores. The sweat became cold and clammy, but he couldn't make it stop, couldn't force his heart to slow down, or his knees to stop quaking. He passed a room to his left, its door closed, and a room to his right, the interior filled with dense shadows, following a rhythmic scraping sound. He squinted at the hardwood floor outside of Boss One's room and the dark fluid leaking out from under the door. He recognized what he was seeing: blood. And what he was hearing: the teeth of a metal saw grinding. With trembling hands, Billy pushed open the door. The coppery scent of blood washed over his senses. All he could see was red. So much red. Puddles of it reflecting the lamplight. Streams of it leaking from where Red Mask knelt on the floor with his back to Billy, mutilating the corpse of Boss One. Boss One, his only family left in this cruel world. Boss One, who had taken him in after Dee. After Dee. Painful memories washed over him, like stinging acid rain, the familiar, helpless feeling of being sucked into the past. He was in the hallway of his old house. The front door was wide open, and through it, he could hear Dee screaming into her phone.
87 Corbett Lane! Hurry!
Billy ran, plunging himself down the hallway. Red Mask stood just past the threshold of the kids' room, his bulky frame blocking the doorway. He raised the gun.
No, don't!
Billy screamed. Bang. Aim. Bang. The second blast sent a spray of blood over Red Mask's shoulder. Chunks of pink tissue splattered the door and the floor around his boots. Billy fell to his knees in the hallway. The world seemed to slow down. There was a tightness in his chest. He didn't think he could draw a breath, and he didn't care. He couldn't run, couldn't be bothered to save his own life. He just knelt there, eyes wide and frozen. Red Mask approached. He could see just past him now, into the bedroom. Cindy was on the floor, her pajamas stained with gore. He couldn't see Jonathan, but a lifeless arm poked out from behind the bed, blood streaming to form a puddle around the upturned palm. He finally took a breath, unleashing a flood of tears. He sobbed into his hands, slumped over on the floor. And when Red Mask fired the bullet that should have ended his misery, Billy's misery only began. Red Mask fled out the back door as Dee crawled through the front. Much to her dismay, she survived, but she was never the same.
Why didn't you get the kids?
She repeated like a skipping record. She hung herself 6 months after her children were laid out at Zollner Funeral Home. Fresh tears filled Billy's eyes. They had been a small family and a broken one, but they had loved each other deeply, and Red Mask had taken it all. As he watched Red Mask knelt on the floor, sawing into the corpse of the only person left in this world who cared about Billy, the angry bear trap inside him finally snapped. At first, he felt dizzy and worried he might pass out. Then, Dee's voice echoed in his mind.
Get the children! Get the children!
As if sensing Billy's presence, Red Mask went still. He slowly turned his head. His eyes glistened like poisonous black oysters inside the red shell of his mask. He was nothing but a soulless killing machine.
The children! I have to save them!
Red Mask stood. He tossed the bloody saw to the ground with a resounding clatter and pulled a long knife from its sheath. Billy turned to run. He used his long legs, pumping them furiously as he cleared the hall, desperate to reach the children before Red Mask. In the foyer, he turned, past the main office, the storage room, his room. He skidded to a stop at the door to the embalming room. He flung it open, flipped the lights, and there they were, Cindy and Jonathan, asleep on the metal tables under their white sheets. He pulled the sheets off and scooped them up, their skin cool and leathery against his. He turned and saw Red Mask closing in on them, walking with the knife at his side.
We can't get past him.
He whispered to the kids.
We'll have to go through the window.
Uncle Billy, I'm scared,
said Johnny.
Don't let him hurt us,
said Cindy.
I won't.
Billy said.
I'm here for you.
He hugged them closely, kissed their cold foreheads.
I'll never let you down again.
He left them on their metal tables, slammed the door to the room, and locked it. Then, slid a heavy cabinet in front of it. He opened the window.
Come on,
he said, and hoisted the children into his arms, helping them escape. They found Billy crying and cuddling 2 corpses, hidden between the bushes at the back of Zollner Funeral Home. Cindy and Johnny, he kept calling them, but those were not their names. Officers on the scene wore grim expressions, foreheads wrinkled with stress, as they ushered Billy into the back of a police cruiser. From inside the car, Billy heard one of them say,
"The footprints lead away from the hallway where the murders took place, then back again. Our killer chased this guy first, then went back for the second victim, the brother of the first."
The other cop shook his head.
So if this Billy guy had gone to a neighbor, alerting the victim, pretty much anything else, the second victim might have survived, but instead, this.
He gestured to the children's bodies being hauled away on stretchers. Billy only clutched himself, muttering.
I saved them.
He rocked back and forth, back and forth.
I got them out, Dee. I saved them this time. I got them out, Dee. I saved them this time.
This has been a Morbid Forest production, and on this week's episode you've heard Red Mask, written by Lindsey B. Goddard, with narration by Kiefer Light as your narrator, Shawn Conkling-Methot as Billy, Mr. Zollner as Havish Ravipati, David Kurze as Mr. Zollner's brother, Jessica Hart as Dee, Kyle Bone as Johnny, Naomi Richards as Cindy, Ron Hyatt as Cop Number 1, and Shawn Moreau as Cop Number 2. I'll go ahead and leave in our show notes all the places that you can follow Lindsey and her amazing work. I'm telling you guys, she's such a fantastic writer, and we are so pleased to have her on this show. I'll leave links below for her Instagram, her TikTok, and X. Follow us on X, or Twitter if you're old school, Instagram, Threads, Blue Skies, and Discord to stay up to date on all the happenings within the forest. Interested in more morsels of the forest? Then join our Patreon. As a faithful traveler, you'll receive exclusive access to early episode releases, access to all bonus content, and deals on merch for only $3 a month. That's patreon.com/The Morbid Forest. Do you have a moment to spare for your favorite podcast? For only 5 stars, you can help other travelers out there in desperate need of finding a horror podcast. Ratings and reviews help us reach all those lonely travelers out there, just like you were. And with that, we'll see you next time, travelers, on The Morbid Forest.